This week, we have an absolute legend of the beauty industry joining us. We're delighted to welcome leading makeup artist, founder, author, expert Ruby Hammer MBE to the podcast. As well as decorating some of the most famous and beautiful faces, from Kate Moss to Naomi Campbell to Jerry Hall, Ruby pioneered the movement towards inclusivity and beauty when she co-founded Ruby and Millie Makeup for Boots in 1998, which I remember very clearly as a 19-year-old was sort of a bit posh for me at the time, but I was just so excited by it. And it was two actual women that I could see you at the time with your partner. Ruby was awarded the MBE by the Queen in 2007 for her long-standing contribution to the cosmetics industry, and has become something of a beauty guru, gracing TV shows like the iconic Clothes Show. I mean, I loved that show so much. Britain's Next Top Model and the pages of glossy magazines worldwide.
In 2019, Ruby launched her eponymous brand, Ruby Hammer Beauty, an award-winning collection combining high-performance quality cosmetics with innovation in a bid to encourage women to embrace our natural and unique beauty. A devoted grandmother, an outspoken expert on subjects relating to ageism and diversity, Ruby's become a beacon of authenticity on the British beauty scene, and we can't wait to hear how she turned her passion into a thriving and enduring business operation. Now, spanning almost 40 years in the beauty industry, which is quite incredible, 4 decades. What would you say is the shake the table moment, Ruby, that stands out the most for you?
The thing is, when you've got a 40-year career, it's very hard to just landmark one. And I get asked this question quite a lot. It's really hard. It's easy when you've got a short career, it's done or it's over. Mine's still going on, please.
Yes.
So it's not over yet.
It's not over.
Things like getting that MBE from the late Queen herself for the contribution, not for makeup artistry, but the contribution to the industry. Nowadays, there are lots of people. You know, even my old business partner, Millie Kendall, is now an OBE, you know, which is wonderful. She's the head of the British Beauty Council. That's great. So, you know, but now there are lots of other people like that in the industry. And at that time, there were very few. So that's a really big landmark. Then there are things like the first time you ever shoot for Vogue. And it was very weird.
Made me
as
go
an artist,
goosebumpy as you've said that. It made me go a bit goosebumpy as you said it. Actually,
because
it must have been
I was a makeup
exciting.
artist for many years, and I had to have a French agent because a lot of editorial was done from France. I obviously had a British agent. So the first time she's going, Ruby, we've got a Vogue, and it's British Vogue, and I was like, yay! And it is really strange. So I'd worked for wonderful photographers, lots of incredible magazines by then, but it's your first Vogue.
Yes,
big moment. I couldn't sleep. You actually, when I turned up, you are nervous. And then I sort of gave myself a pep talk in the loo, and I was like, what are you going to do? You're not going to reinvent the wheel. Just do what you do, okay? Listen to the brief. I did the thing. And 5 minutes in, you go into auto.
Who was it with? Who were you? Who was the model?
It was a lingerie shoot. And it was main fashion in there. It was a very beautiful shoot. It was a photographer called Christian Kettiger that I'd worked with a lot, beauty and lingerie. So it wasn't, you know, and she's quite a famous woman now. She's a lady called Patricia Valescu. That was our model. We shot it in France, and then it was for British Vogue. So that's one landmark, getting the MBE. Doing Ruby and Millie, you know, the brand that bears your name. Now, my brand here, but also back of scene. We've brought lots of things to this country where me and my ex-husband, we brought Aveda. We launched it here, Tweezerman, L'Occitane. So it's really hard for me to pick one shake, but those are pretty good ones.
We were just talking about this before, but you were born in Nigeria to Bangladeshi parents. I mean, we were talking a bit about more, come back to that, because that in itself must have been fascinating. But then moving to London age 12, where in London did you move to?
We moved to Putney, so there's a little story there. So we weren't meant to be here. We were on vacation. We were staying at Duke's Hotel, which is in St James's Street.
Still there?
Yeah, still there. We were there, going to Marks and Spencer's and stocking, you know, like it was every 2 years we had 4 months holiday. So my dad and I have 2 brothers younger than me, so they would buy your underwear 6 months on, 6 months on, 6 months on, you know, like for 4 years like that. Go to the shoes. There was a C&A at the time there. There was Selfridges was the local department. So stock up my mum's cosmetics from all her Joy perfume and her this eye makeup, whatever. Stock up. And then we would go home, which was at that time was East Pakistan. It wasn't quite Bangladesh yet. And then one minute you wake up in the morning and there's a civil war has broken out between East and West Pakistan. And by the age of 12, my dad thought it's time for us to go home and my proper education, settle back home. And we couldn't go to a war zone. And next minute, 6 months had gone. We're staying in a hotel. It's great for us because we don't have school. I've never had TV growing up, and here we are, like
You're living your best life.
We are sweet. We're just watching every cartoon, all day long, and I don't think they realise it's bad to watch that much TV because they're so upset about other things.
Yes.
And then one day he'd gone to an auction downstairs and he bought this house, sight unseen, then dragged us all out, said, come on, wrap up, coat on, in the taxi, and kept going. Where are we going? Putney. So South London is where we end up. He bought a house, put us in school, then got a job, and that was 1973 or 72, something like that. So, and that is, I was 12. I'm 62 now, so that's exactly 50 years ago, and this has become home.
Wow.
This is home.
What an introduction to London life.
I mean, how did you find that transition? I mean, it's quite brutal.
It was quite tough, I have to say, because I was a bit of a tomboy. I'd always got, if you even see my knees now, they're all scrapped. There's all marks and things on elbows. I've got marks. And my mum would say, we're going somewhere, and I'd come in and I'd have like this wispy hair and I'd like weather beaten, and she'd go and clean up. And my nickname was Mowgli from like Jungle Book because that's what I looked like. I was really skinny, but it was the most wonderful childhood,
very free,
warm. And that year that we came here, you were like, could it get any colder? What is this? You know, like,
a real
oh
shock
my
on
God. And
so many levels.
one year, I think I had the hairdryer under the duvet.
Oh my God, I'm glad you just set yourself on fire.
And my dad he came to wake us up for school, and he heard the thing going on under and he was like, Ruby, I'll have to get you an electric blanket. He goes, this is so dangerous because it would start the fire and we could all be damp. So it was hard.
Gosh.
You have to adapt to your environment. We do as human beings. You have to adapt, but without losing who you are, what you are.
Ruby, I'm so interested, like all of this culture clash kind of was going on, but also thinking about your incredible beauty career, how you sort of morphed from this Mowgli kind of child that was very boyish to this career in grooming. Like, when did the interest in beauty, and I know your mum and a close relationship with her has a bit to do with it.
She would be my first inspiration because, as I've said earlier, my mum was 17. So... And my
17 when she had you.
17 when she had me, and we were in Africa at the time. So you've got to imagine that the fashion at the time is all Gucci and, you know, all that kind of whatever was going on, go-go bells, short mini, big sunglasses, wigs. My mum did it all because she was a young woman. She wasn't a frump, you know.
Was she a real fashionista?
Fashionista.
Yeah.
Her Poochie would be a chiffon sari.
Yeah.
But the print was Poochie.
Yeah.
You know, she wore those colours, that kind of whatever.
Very vibrant.
She had a wig stand, it would have short hair, it would have ringlets, it would be up, down, whatever. So, and my father was progressing and really getting on. So they would attend events, you know, and Independence Day ones and other ones with work.
What business line were they in?
No, my father was a doctor.
He was a doctor.
That's why they went to Africa at that time.
Yeah, and she
because
would
they
help
needed doctors, lawyers,
entertain.
everything. Yeah, but within that administration, he became not just. He started off in a little hospital, and then it went on and on, and he became, you know, big. Run hospitals, you had to get equipment, you had to all kinds of things. So they entertained a lot, and she would be this mother of 3, because by 21 she'd had 3 children. And some of the cooking was like an open air, I mean, like you had to throw logs in there and, you know, cook it and control and all that. So she'd be sweaty and vile. And then she'd go and shower and then turn into, I thought, this Bollywood star. You know,
Yeah.
suddenly
Wow.
1 minute she's got, and then she's kissing us goodbye. Tonight, you have to go, we're going out. And I'd be looking at her and I'd go, so that's the seed. The inspiration always comes from something
Yeah.
like that. Then when we come to this country and you're going to Selfridges and you're going to a Harrods, and I worked as my Saturday job in Harrods from the age of
Yeah.
16.
Did you?
Yes. And it was always because I had the bug in me.
Yeah.
I had the bug of makeup. I didn't know what a makeup artist was. I didn't know what that was, but I just loved it. So when I was allowed to wear makeup from about 15 onwards, out, she once said to me, and this is, my mum has passed away 12 years ago, but once she got really tearful and I went, it's making me tearful. I said, why, Mum? She said, you've twisted that lipstick and you've broken it. And I was very upset with you. And I said, where are you, Mum? And I said, yeah. And then she said, and now, over the years, how much product I have given her, you know, as a makeup artist, what
Yeah.
got sent to me, not just Ruby and MUA before that, you know, we got things from PR and I've shared very generously with everybody I can. Because if you're not using it, it's not good sitting at home. You need to
Yeah.
get rid. One, the shelf life goes, it's not good. And I'd rather somebody had it. She said, look at this. You've given me more than I could ever have from the few that you've ruined.
Yeah.
But we all do it, and it's part of the
Growing
it's
up,
part
isn't
of growing up.
When
as,
did you
as women.
sense that it might become your career?
No,
Was there?
no. I just
No.
knew I had a passion for
Yeah.
it. And then I was going to be a doctor like my dad. He always wanted us to be educated, girl or boy, and you got to do your best and you can achieve anything you put your mind to. So it wasn't one rule for the girls and one rule for the boys. So that was drummed into us.
Yeah.
You must be educated. You must get the best you can. And we're in this wonderful country that allows you to be
Yeah.
educated. People don't have this privilege. You must take the education for as long as you can, and then you must just do your best. It's not about earning money, but you've got to give it your best. So I have that. So it didn't
Your
matter
mindset.
what you were going to do. And it's only after my degree that I met my then future husband. And via him, one of his very good friends was a makeup artist, that he said, oh, you love your makeup, Ruby. So it was British Fashion Week, and she had assistants, but one was a bit unreliable and one had broken a finger. And in those days, all the shows used to be done at the Duke of York Barracks in Chelsea.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she just threw this pass at me, access all areas. And I put that on. She goes, all right then, Ruby, I'll see you at 4. And I was like, 4 a.m. And she went, well, the show is at 9:35 and we've got 35 girls. So when do you want to show up, Ruby? And I'd never done anything like that. I went, okay, I'll be there. My mum from Putney at 3:30, 3:45 in the morning was nothing. It was a 5-minute drive from my mum. I got there. I assisted.
Yeah.
And I was an assistant for 2 years. So it's an apprenticeship, you know.
Wow.
I'm not taught. I haven't
Yeah.
learned anywhere. I haven't gone to a course for it.
Yeah.
But I had it, that inspiration.
Could you find all the makeup? Because one of the things I'm saying this
At that
it's coming
time.
to my head, yeah, because obviously it was a massive issue being able to get
One
makeup
is-
for darker skin.
One is I was younger, so touch wood, I wasn't ridden with acne or something like
Yeah.
that. So I did
You weren't
have
looking almost
time of
for-
the month. You have that because you're a teenager, your reproductive years. But I didn't wear a lot of foundation.
Yeah.
Colourways, I think they were there, but base products would have been really hard
Yeah.
even then.
It would have been.
Really hard, really hard. I didn't have that mindset, I'm going to just have a foghorn and I'm busting. I just quietly, you have to be good at what you do so that it's not about your colour or your age or you don't have, you know, like in fashion where you are, you don't have an artistic background. Because I didn't. I could have sat there and thought, oh my God, they've all gone to art school, they're in fashion, they're in this, and they know, and what connection have I got to any of that? But I had the love of it. And I was willing to put the hard work into it. Like I said, and then if it failed, it failed. But at least I've given it my best shot.
Yeah.
And luckily, I took this career and I just rolled with it.
You talked there in a sense a bit about finding your voice. And obviously you launched Ruby Hammer Beauty not that long ago. What made you do that?
So over the years, I've always been a professional makeup artist, and then other opportunities comes, and they're commercial opportunities, and we've taken them and done them very well successfully, and Ruby and Millie was one of them. And then my mum got diagnosed with cancer, and they said she's only got... I got married in 2010, 2011, she gets diagnosed with cancer, and they said she's got 2 weeks to live. I was 50 years old. It just shattered everything. So far, I meditated, I take care of myself, I know about food, I know some protection. You do all of that, but it just means that you were running on a treadmill and it just stopped. So there was a lull for quite a few years. And it's only when one time I was lying on a beach somewhere, either Maldives or the Turks and Caicos, and they're not holidays we go on every week, it's 1 year, well-earned holiday.
Nice.
Lying there, and I got an itch. You know, the brain, because it was...
Time.
2017 probably.
Yeah.
So I've had a good 5 year. I've grieved for my mum. I've felt, and I'm coming back to my own. And because I was thrown into menopause, there's all kinds goes on. Brain fog, my joints hurt.
I know.
I can't
Yeah.
think. I'm locking this, night sweat. I'm like, I'm not myself. What am I? I can't go on a long journey that I used to do to New York or Miami, come back and get on the red eye and go into a studio. I was like, I can't do this stuff. But it's settled by then a little bit. So then I was feeling myself again, and that's when the seed came. So when you look up, and I always look at the marketplace, and I thought, it was like a Rip Van Winkle moment, you wake up and I thought, oh my God, there's people like Fenty, Rihanna's Fenty brand that's now got foundations that cater to 45 plus shades. Do I just want to make more noise in this very loud arena? So I had to find a way that was true for me. And I also was of that age where I just knew what it entails to do a huge, big thing. So hats off, Charlotte, Lisa Eldridge, Pat McGrath, all of you guys, but they're also a lot younger than me. I've done that in the past. And more than, and hopefully they see that you've carved out a path for them, because that's what you do. And even now, that's what I've got to do. I always believe you've got to pass on the baton, however way you do it, for women first, and then for human beings, and then in your skill, in your industry, whatever you can do, you've got to do. The seed came and I knew it had to be small. It was ruby red. I've always loved red. So I just did things that would work for me as an artist, because I'm still an artist. I don't want it just to have lovely packaging and doesn't function. So again, it's small, started off, so that I will have it in my kit. I still have to carry my kit. But I have peers and artists now, they need to use it. If they use Ruby Hammer stuff and they love Ruby and Millie, they love other stuff, it's got to hold its own. All I am is in my industry, in the beauty industry, yes, I am going to not fake humble. I have had an impact. But there are other women that are doing that in other industries.
Yeah.
And you know what? Collectively, we've got to look at that and teach that to our daughters and teach that to our kids, that, look, this is what you do, give it your best shot. If it doesn't work out, there's other things. You can retrain, you can do that, but you've got to keep the brain alert, the body healthy,
And that you've
the
found-
mind calm
Yeah.
and peaceful and willing to learn.
But also to find a niche in a very crowded marketplace. You saw an opportunity there.
It's
when
more
lots of others
crowded
might
now
not.
than ever.
Thinking almost about everything that you've said, what one lesson do you think you've learned that you would tell your daughter and maybe even your grandson, who you just light up when you talk about? And you're doing it now.
I adore this little boy, Max. I adore my little grandson, but I think other grandparents do too. But I've always been, I think, a youthful spirit. It's not about the age. I think I have a youthful spirit. And this little magic boy gets me to get it out again. I'm always the one running around with him doing this. And he gives me joy, and it's reflected in my face, as you have commented. And, yeah, it's like I want to do more so that we can live a good planet for him, because it's about his future and others like him, not just because they're mine, but we have to leave our planet like that. And he gives me that kick in the arse to say, be aware, why are you going to leave for me? Because I adore him. Do I want to leave him with a load of rubbish? And that is one. I get a lot of joy from my work and meeting people, doing something like this, just talking, but he gives me that. And it's entwined with all the other things that, you want to make it fun, you want to make it that, but you want to also leave something here.
It's very
as a
motivating,
legacy.
isn't it?
It is.
Brilliant.
What like a powerhouse.
I know.
There were 2 or 3 things I thought. Number one, also just thinking about some of our other participants, the importance of education. We've said this before, but parenting. So actually, a lot of these women are of, between, say, 45 and 65, at a time when not all women were encouraged to do whatever they wanted to do and be the best they could be. But everyone has been, actually. It's really interesting, that power of what you're allowed to do in the space you're given.
Yeah.
And also the power of education.
Yeah.
It's really struck me with Ruby in particular. Just the way she articulates, I thought, that's right. It's so important and we take it for granted, maybe.
You're
now.
right, those formative years. But also I just loved the relationship with her mother and how it's so nostalgic, isn't it? And it took me back to my mum always wearing Chanel No. 5 and how
I
can
was so
feel
grown up
smell
when you
it
went
now.
in there.
Yeah, and getting herself ready for a night out, and how that had such an impact on Ruby, although she didn't know then, wanted to be a doctor. We can change what we want to be. But I loved that close relationship, and I had a very vivid image of her mother there dressed up as a Bollywood star.
Especially in the Poochie sari, I could sort of picture it myself. It sounded amazing.
But ultimately, like seeing opportunities, Ruby is just such a go-getter that if there's a slight gap in that market, she's going to see it. Yeah, and it's like, she had that sort of spirit early on, perhaps, when she had to come and fit into a whole different culture.
And talk very lightly, actually, about what must have been, if you think about Britain in the 70s in particular, not particularly welcoming place for immigrants, and just reference it in a light way. So real sort of self-belief and an insulation, I think, from all of that, from a family, a strong family unit, which is remarkable.
But absolutely, like 62 and a youthful spirit, but youthful looks. I mean, basically, I'm sold on her capsule collection of beauty, because if it makes me look as radiant and glowing as Ruby, then I'm 100%. There. Yeah.
Or even half as glowing.
Exactly. Yeah, or a tiny bit, like a 20th. Yeah.
No, it's brilliant.
Great chat.